They say the last surgeon of this hospital never really left. He didn't just vanish, he transformed into something far more sinister. And what I discovered inside these decaying walls will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Stay with me, because this is unlike anything you've ever seen. The hospital stands as a crumbling monument to forgotten nightmares. The walls are cracked, their peeling paint revealing the scars of time, while the air feels oppressively heavy, thick with a stench of decay that clings like an invisible specter. Dim, flickering lights throw erratic shadows onto the walls, shadows that seem unnervingly alive, shifting and stretching even when everything else is still. This place has been abandoned for decades, its doors sealed after a series of unexplainable and horrifying events. But among the whispers of its dark past, one tale refuses to die: the story of the last surgeon. Locals won't utter his name, convinced his restless spirit prowls these empty corridors, forever tied to the horrors he left behind. As I stepped inside, determined to uncover the truth, I was greeted by an unsettling sight: a shadow shifting at the end of the hall, in a place where no one should be. This hospital, once hailed as a beacon of medical advancement, opened its doors in the 1940s as a state-of-the-art facility. For years, it stood at the forefront of healthcare, a place where lives were saved. But in the 1980s, everything changed. Without warning, it was shut down, its doors locked forever. The reason? A series of unexplained disappearances and surgeries gone horribly wrong. The most chilling tale of all revolves around the last surgeon, Dr. Elias Carter. Rumors swirled that he had lost his sanity. Some say he locked himself in the operating room, refusing to leave for days on end, consumed by an obsession no one could understand. The legends are as horrifying as they are persistent. Patients reported hearing blood-curdling screams echoing through the hallways long after the surgeries were over. And some even claimed to have seen Dr. Carter, his clothes soaked in blood, wandering the halls even after his supposed death. To this day, the locals live in fear. No one dares set foot inside this place, and even thrill-seekers who seek out the darkest corners of the world turn back the moment they lay eyes on the boarded-up operating room. It's said that this is where Dr. Carter's spirit still lingers, trapped within these walls. As I pushed the heavy door open, a cold gust of air hit me, the kind that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. The temperature inside was freezing, far colder than it should have been for such an abandoned building, as if the hospital itself was trying to keep me out, warning me not to come any closer. The silence inside was almost suffocating, but then came a sound that made my heart skip a beat. A faint metallic clang echoed through the hallway, followed by what sounded like a muffled scream, far too real to be a trick of the imagination. I froze in place, my breath coming out in visible puffs as I scanned the empty corridor. But there was nothing there, no sign of anyone, just darkness. I moved forward, my footsteps echoing through the empty halls, when suddenly the lights above me flickered violently. For a brief moment, I could have sworn I saw a shadowy figure standing at the end of the corridor, just beyond the light's reach. But before I could focus, the lights went out completely, plunging me into a darkness that felt almost alive. I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone anymore. I continued deeper into the hospital, my senses heightened with every step, when I stumbled upon something that made my blood run cold. Lying on a dusty table was an old journal, the leather cover cracked and worn. As I flipped it open, I found the handwriting to be jagged, frantic. The entries seemed to get more erratic as I read, "I couldn't save them, but they won't leave me. They need me. Forever." The chill in the air grew more intense as I read on. And that's when I saw it. Surgical tools scattered across the table, their blades coated in a thick layer of rust, stained with what looked like dried blood. The sight made my stomach turn, but it wasn't just the tools that caught my eye. There was something else, something far more sinister. I turned around and noticed a door at the far end of the hallway. The operating room door. It was locked, but the surface looked fresh, almost as if someone had tried to force it open not too long ago. The scratches on the door were deep, as though something, or someone, had desperately tried to escape. As I neared the door, the atmosphere shifted. The shadows around me seemed to stretch and move, following me as if they had a life of their own. I could hear whispers now, soft and distant at first, but growing clearer with every passing second. "Don't leave. Stay with us." The words sent a shiver down my spine. The whispers weren't coming from anywhere I could see, but they felt close. Too close. I didn't know how much longer I could last. Every instinct screamed at me to turn around and run, but I knew that the answers I was seeking were hidden within these walls. The danger wasn't just in the past. It was here, in the present, waiting for me to uncover the truth. I couldn't resist any longer. The locked operating room door was calling me, its presence heavy and undeniable. I forced the door open, the rusted hinges creaking loudly, echoing down the empty hallways. As I stepped inside, my eyes were met with an unsettling sight. The room was eerily pristine, as if it had never been abandoned. The operating table was still set up, the sterile instruments perfectly arranged, as if waiting for the next surgery. But there was something wrong about it. Everything felt too frozen in time, as though this place had been waiting for me. The air was thick, heavy with the stench of something ancient, something that had long outstayed its welcome. Then, my gaze fell upon the operating table. At first, I thought it was a mannequin, positioned in an unnatural way, its limbs stiff and posed. But as I stepped closer, a sense of dread washed over me. This wasn't plastic. The body before me was not a dummy. It was real, a perfectly preserved corpse, its skin pale and stretched tight over the bones. The most terrifying part? The body's eyes were wide open, unblinking, staring directly at me as if it had been waiting for this moment, for someone to uncover its horrifying truth. My heart raced, my breath caught in my throat. I reached out instinctively, but before I could get any closer, a sudden noise behind me stopped me dead in my tracks. The sound of slow, deliberate footsteps echoing through the sterile room. I whipped around, but the room was empty. Then I felt it, a cold breath on the back of my neck. It sent chills through my spine, freezing me in place. I turned slowly, and that's when I saw him. A figure in a surgeon's coat, standing in the shadows. His face was obscured by darkness, but his eyes, they were hollow, glowing faintly in the dim light of the room. In his hand he held a scalpel, the blade gleaming as he raised it slowly, methodically, as though preparing for the next incision. His hollow gaze met mine, and I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then the silence was broken, a whisper that chilled me to my core. "You're next." The air around me grew impossibly colder. The shadows in the room seemed to stretch and pulse, as though they were alive, surrounding me. I wanted to run, to escape, but my legs refused to move. The figure in front of me stepped forward, the scalpel glinting as he raised it higher, his eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made my stomach churn. I couldn't look away. His hollow gaze locked with mine, and for a split second, I saw the terror, the madness in his eyes, the same madness that had consumed Dr. Elias Carter all those years ago. The room felt smaller now, the walls closing in. The whispers grew louder, surrounding me, drowning me in their terrifying urgency. "You're next! You're next!" Then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the figure was gone. The coldness vanished, the whispers faded, and the room returned to silence. But the sense of dread didn't leave. The figure was still there, in the corners of my mind, haunting me, watching me. I backed away, my body trembling, the scalpel's image seared into my mind. Was it really Dr. Carter? Had I just witnessed a supernatural encounter? Or was something far darker, far more sinister, still lurking in the depths of this hospital? I didn't know, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible had just been set in motion. And I feared it wasn't over yet. As I ran out of that hospital, my heart pounding in my chest, I couldn't help but look back one last time. And that's when I saw it, the unmistakable shadow of Dr. Carter standing in the window, watching me, waiting. My legs nearly gave way beneath me, but I didn't dare stop. The fear that gripped me wasn't just from what I saw, but from the chilling thought that something might have followed me out of that place. Something that wasn't quite ready to let go. Who or what did I really encounter that night? Was it truly Dr. Carter's restless spirit, or was there something far darker at work in that abandoned hospital? The questions linger, unanswered, and the unease I felt hasn't left me. Something doesn't want the past to stay buried here, and it's as if the hospital refuses to let go of its horrifying history. What do you think? Do you believe Dr. Carter's spirit still haunts the halls, or could it be something even more sinister? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And if you want more chilling stories like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because next time, the mystery might be even closer to home.